So if we plead for such a commission, take recent examples, if you go to recent kind of irritations, I won't say those are conflicts, those are kind of irritations being caused by rhetoric here or there, are being pursued by groups which we call extremists from right or left. There is some kind of controversies going on which lead to clash or which cause apprehensions at a time that the society may at certain stages rip apart. So going into the kind of politics that's made in our country, the kind of conflict spots where certain issues are raised, like Kashmir file, I would make a mention for an illustration. We who have been living in coexistence, we have had an ethos, we are always pleading brotherhood, we chose to be part of a democratic country which has a civilizational basis, which would always respect for ethos despite history of certain conflicts, age-old conflicts. But we have had a leader like Gandhi, who was a religionist and above religion too, who was embodiment of values, who would always sacrifice his own personal ambitions, interest, even life for respecting a human right, for respecting national integrity, for respecting the harmony in the Indian society. We have had so many leaders in our state also. When Muhammad Abdullah decided to be part of India, he had certain values in mind. The largest democracy, and so his legacy, or any other leader, or our society at large, not to talk of leaders or religious leaders or political leaders, society as a whole. I don't think any that Kashmir was a glaring example of coexistence. Now, when the facts are being distorted, when certain controversies are being raised, even stretched to subcontinent too, one would like that we have an institution which would care for facts and lead us to a society which lives together in peace, equity, and dignity. That's what I had to say.
Thank you very much, Najamuddin Bhatt Sahab. Mr. Ashok Bhan, eminent lawyer, next 4-5 minutes for you.
Yes.
Mr. Ashok Bhan, please.
Friends, my friend Nizamuddin Sahab has given the broadest conspectus of the concept, doctrine of Truth and Reconciliation Commission and how it is relevant to Indian conditions also. And since Truth and Reconciliation Commission as an institution is part of the human rights jurisprudence throughout the globe, and in any conflict zone, after the democracy is restored, Truth and Reconciliation Commissions have played a great role. And in the context of India, as Mr. Nizamuddin said, that even Gandhiji was the tallest leader of our country, and he became victim of a blood from a person who would not agree to Gandhian philosophy. And he exercised his right very violently upon Gandhiji. And still, the law took its own course, and he was punished for that. But Gandhiji's ideals of democracy, pluralism, inclusive society, truth and reconciliation in this country still prevails. And we have a constitution which is in place, which takes care of all these rights within us. Within the society. And there has been some problem to disrupt the equanimity of the Indian society by internal and external forces. But the society's resilience and its constitutional mechanism has taken care of all of its attempts to disrupt the equanimity of our civilizational unity, civilizational society in India. And since Kashmir, lately for last 32 years, became a conflict zone, and that conflict was created by a neighboring country with a plan and eye on annexing Kashmir by way of subversion, by way of terrorism, and the primary intent of killing Hindus, Muslims, and others, those people who were perceived to be the loyal and peaceful citizens of Republic of India, they were killed, and they were brutally killed. And the primary intent of those killing of both Hindus and Muslims in the valley was to create a situation and eventually secede Kashmir from the Union of India and eventually annexed by Pakistan. This was the primary intent, and it has been held very widely. And mind you, I want to remind all of us that there was a clarion call in 1947 when there was an option for Jammu and Kashmir state to accede to either dominion. And there was a clarion call given by the tallest and leader of Jammu and Kashmir, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah at that time, that we have to keep our destiny with this side of the tunnel, that is with Union of India, for a variety of reasons, for the real reasons of values of India, civilizational values, civilizational affinity of Kashmir with Union of India. And he made it possible politically and constitutionally that Jammu and Kashmir becomes the part of India. And his legacy was rightfully reflected and represented by Dr. Farooq Abdullah, who is on the program. And it is still continuing its effort to retain that, consolidate the idea of India in Kashmir. There has been some aberration. Aberration is that there was a constitutional separate status for Jammu and Kashmir. That status was given a go by a constitutional amendment in August 2019. Whether that action is legitimate or not, that is still pending the adjudication in the Supreme Court. I will not venture into to go into the merits of that decision, but the fact remains that the consequence of that decision has been that whatever was promised after the abrogation of 370, that almost 3 years have gone by, those promises are not fulfilled. And Kashmir in today's context is not free. Kashmiris are not free to exercise their fundamental rights, human rights. And they are virtually what is Supreme Court described. CBI at one point of time when I was at CBI, they said CBI is a caged parrot. Likewise, today Kashmiris want to express, they want to enjoy human rights, they want to enjoy the development promised, they want to have freedom of speech,
Please
they want to
conclude.
have freedom of expression. That seems to be not happening, and Kashmiris are not very happy, to be very honest about it. And in today's context, when Kashmir Files came up as a movie, it did depict the atrocities, the brutalities inflicted on those who were loyal to the Republic of India, and targeted killings were done to a particular community called Kashmiri Pandits. They were hounded out, and they were very brutally and mercilessly hounded out. Likewise, the Muslims who were pro-Indian,
Mr.
they
Bhan,
were
please
also hounded
conclude.
out. I'll take a minute because it's very important to say this. And they were also brutally, the first victim to fall to the bullets of the gun was one Mr. Halwai from our area, from Havakadal constituency. And when Tikalal Teplu condemned his killing, next target was Tikalal Teplu. And the third target was one of our great friends and a former MLA, Mir Mustafa, who was hanged on the nearest lamppost. And subsequently, Abdul Sattar Ranjur, other National Congress leaders, and also many others, Maulana Said, Mirwais Maulvi Farooq, all of them were killed. And in today's context, when you have given us a subject, do we need, it has two components. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission and institution have two components. It is for retributory justice and also for restorative justice. Retributive justice means that it needs to be investigated, and based on that investigation, the wrongdoers have to be punished and brought to justice. And restorative justice means it tries to restore the relationship to the rightness, to the mutual accommodation and mutual trust and confidence. So this institution of Truth and Reconciliation Commission has two components. And we as Kashmiris feel that the Aghanese Kashmiri society as such, and Kashmiri Pandit in particular, has been suffering for the last 32 years, has to be created. A Truth and Reconciliation Commission should be constituted, and it must get into both restorative and also retributive acts. And then we need to give a quietus to a situation which has been prevailing and which is eating at the vitals. It is eating the generations. It is eating a very population of 7 lakh people who are in exile.
Ashokji, please conclude.
I am concluding it with one sentence. And it is virtually eaten a generation of Kashmiris, and it has virtually disintegrated a generation and also a 7 lakh community who have the roots of 5,000 years engraved in Kashmir soil. That means both Muslims and the Kashmiri Pandits are suffering the agony which was created by a foreign power, executed by local militants and terrorists. And we have all paid our price for that so far, and it needs to be investigated into. And both the doctrine which contains both the punishments have to be met up, and also maybe it helps in reconciliation between the intra-communities to usher in a new visionary Jammu and Kashmir as a new Naya Kashmir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Qazi Ashraf.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I didn't expect that.
Just remember 4 minutes, please. Yes, Dr. Ashraf, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So it's a pleasure to be with you this time. As both the speakers threw a good amount of light on the aspects of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and both the speakers probably have, in their mind, and they actually hinted at the film, which actually created this dialogue about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Now, let me begin with the confession that I have not watched the movie yet, and I think I am not placed in a comparatively stronger position than all of you to advance my critique of the film. But one thing that I understand should be agreed on is that this film has been made solely for the portrayal of the story of Kashmiri Pandits. It's not a movie about Kashmir of 90s. It's a movie about Kashmiri Pandits of the 90s. That gives us one side of the story. But the best way to counter this movie will be by a movie.
Audio issue.
Audio. Am I not audible? I don't know what's the problem.
Well, continue. Let's see.
Okay. So the commercial movies basically are made to sell what is sellable. The director and the producer of this movie like a shrewd businessman, has brought about what sells. Without the phantasmagorical element of fiction, Kashmir Files wouldn't be a hit at the box office, and that is for sure. Now it is up to the audience to decide what they want to believe in, and since this is not a documentary, so it does not qualify for adhering to the evidence-based data and the facts. But this movie, most importantly, has ignited the passions of the public, like Rambo and Lion of the Desert did once upon a time. And at the same time, it has also raised questions about the efficiency of government machinery of that time. VP Singh's government of the time miserably failed to provide the security and the safety to the Pandit community. Rather than picking up the gun themselves and sparking off communal riots and violence, the Pandits chose to move up at that time. But their exodus does not in any way absolve to them and the successive governments from responsibility. It makes a strong case.
Please conclude.
It makes a strong case for the establishment of Truth and Reconciliation Commission. If a monarchy like Morocco can put the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in place, India has all the reason to go ahead with one. People have a right to know what exactly happened that put Kashmiri Pandit community through horrible sufferings, making them homeless in their own homeland. Thank you.
Thank you very much. John Dayal, human rights activist from Delhi. John, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yeah. You will be followed by Ashwini Chirungu. John,
Yeah.
it's your time.
Yeah, greetings.
4 minutes, please.
Greetings to all of you, and in particular, to Mr. Shah and Dr. Abdullah. Possibly Mr. Haquaz.
I think the mics should be, they should be put on mute because it is interfering with.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Shasa, put all the mics on.
Haq Nawaz
Put all the
Saab,
mics on mute.
Qazi Ashraf Shah, please.
I request him to put the mics on mute because
Mr. Shah, mute everybody, and the next in line could be opened up. So, greetings, of course, to everyone, and particularly to Dr. The basic question is, what is truth? Is truth? And what is the political will? South Africa had this experiment.
Haq Nawaz Saab, please. Haq Nawaz Saab.
Yeah.
Shazab, please put all of them on mute. Please put all the participants on mute, except the speaker, please.
Don't silence the young generation. Just mute the mic. A better option.
Yeah.
It's not the only place it has been tried, South Africa. There was a political will to go through the process. I'm not going through the facts of the case, because if there is to be a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the facts would emerge: the cross-examination, the confrontation, the victim looking at his tormentor, the tormentor looking into the eyes of the victim. Those are powerful psychological tools in Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and that will be then. Currently, of course, is, are we ready? Are we mature? Are we politically strong? Go through the process. We talk about films and fake news and real news, etc. But the point really is that still the basic issue of Kashmir from 1947 till this year remains an instrument of electioneering. It remains an instrument of blame, putting blame on each other. Above all, it has been the cause, the instrument, the catalyst for a larger hate, which goes much beyond the victims, Muslims and Hindus, of Kashmir, and today engulfs the rest of us, deep down from Kerala to the northeast, to Bengal, and to us in New Delhi. And that then automatically will also become part of the Truth and Reconciliation, Islamophobia and everything else. So I would clearly and prayerfully want a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. But in a situation where judicial commissions, where fact-finding missions, where Supreme Court appointed committees on various other issues have failed to produce results on even smaller issues, are we today in a position to have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission between India and Pakistan and between Kashmir and its groups? I would regretfully say the time, unfortunately, doesn't seem to be today, much as the reason for such a commission is supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ashwini Chirungu Saab. Ashwani ji,
Yes.
please offer your
Yeah.
comments.
मैं आज इस इशू पे अपनी भाषा में ही बोलना पसंद करूंगा। सबसे पहले तो ये है कि इस फिल्म के माध्यम से ही सही, लेकिन एक चीज तो हुआ, और वो ये है कि कश्मीर और कश्मीरी पंडितों के विषय पर चर्चा तो शुरू हो गई। इसलिए मैं धन्यवाद करता हूं कश्मीर फाइल्स के निर्माता को कि उन्होंने ये फिल्म बना करके एक ऐसी सच्चाई से पर्दा उठाने की कोशिश की है जिसके सहारे हम आगे बढ़ने के लिए तैयार हो गए हैं। देखिए, यहाँ पर ये ट्रूथ एंड रिकंसिलिएशन कमीशन की जो बात है उसको लेकर के मैं एक बात यहाँ जरूर कहना चाहूंगा, और मुझे लगता है कि वो बात कहनी बड़ी जरूरी है। देखिए, बार बार ये कहा जा रहा है कि जो कश्मीर में हुआ उसके लिए कोई एक पर्टिकुलर पार्टी या कोई एक पर्टिकुलर नेता उसके लिए जिम्मेदार है। सबसे पहले तो मैं ये साफ करूंगा, it is not basically to cover something, but the fact of the matter is that whatever happened in Kashmir, it is not because of the follies of one person or one party or one government. It is right from 1984 down to 1990 जो भी कश्मीर में हुआ उस सब के लिए जो सारी सरकारें हैं और जो उसको चलाने वाले थे वो सारे जिम्मेदार हैं। कोई इस तरह से ये कह करके पिन पॉइंट करके किसी के लिए ये कहे कि फलां आदमी जिम्मेदार है, मुझे लगता है ये ज्यादती होगी, और मुझे नहीं लगता ये दिस इज द राइट वे ऑफ आस्किंग फॉर द राइट जजमेंट। द राइट जजमेंट वुड बी कि 1984 से जो ये मामला बन गया और जिसके कारण फिर उसका क्लाइमैक्स 19 जनवरी 1990 को हुआ, उसके बाद जो हुआ दैट इज अ हिस्ट्री, नो इशू। द मेन इशू इज जो ये वाला पीरियड है, इसके लिए जिम्मेदार कौन है? अगर इसके लिए जिम्मेदार किसी एक पर्टिकुलर पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को ठहराया जाए, आई डोंट बिलीव दैट विल बी जस्टिस। द फैक्ट इज कि इसमें सारे जिम्मेदार हैं जो भी उस वक्त सरकार में थे, चाहे वो दिल्ली में, मैं तो दिल्ली वालों को ज्यादा जिम्मेदार ठहराता हूं। और उसका सबसे बड़ा कारण क्यों? इट वॉज द कोलोसल फेलियर ऑफ द इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसीज एट दैट टाइम। अब सवाल यह पैदा होता है, फेलियर उनका डेलिबरेट था या फेलियर एंड एरर ऑफ कमीशन था? Whether it was an error of commission or whether it was the error of commission, who will decide it? Somebody ultimately has to decide it. So future course of time के लिए जहां से भी ये बात आई है ट्रूथ एंड रिकंसिलिएशन कमीशन की, I 100% support it. Not only from a community perspective, but also from an overall perspective of Jammu and Kashmir. जम्मू कश्मीर में दो इश्यूज हैं और वो दोनों सेपरेट इश्यूज हैं। एक ये है कि कश्मीरी पंडित कम्युनिटी के साथ जो हुआ वो सामने है, इट इज वन इशू। और बाकी ये है कि बाकी जम्मू कश्मीर में जो रहते हैं उनके साथ क्या हुआ, बिकॉज द इश्यूज आर नॉट आइडेंटिकल इन ऑल सीफियर्स is on the roads for the last 32 years because of the follies of the government. देखिए, जिसने बंदूक चलानी थी वो उसको अपना कर्तव्य मान रहा था, लेकिन जिसने बंदूक को रोकना था उसने क्या किया, क्वेश्चन ये है। और जो जम्मू कश्मीर में सब लोगों के साथ हुआ, इसके लिए कोई भी खुश नहीं है। और जो पहलू मैं यहां पर यही बात एम्फेसिस देकर के कहूंगा, कश्मीर फाइल्स के बारे में बार बार एक बात आ रही है, दैट इट इज वन साइड ऑफ द स्टोरी। द फैक्ट ऑफ द मैटर इज दैट दिस फिल्म इज focused on one side of the story only, and that is true because the focus is Kashmiri Pandit. अब ऐसा नहीं है कि कश्मीरी पंडितों ने किसी के विरुद्ध हाथ उठाया हो, हथियार उठाए हो, तो वो वाला साइड भी दिखाएं। उनके ऊपर जो हुआ था वो कोई हिंदू मुस्लिम राइट्स नहीं हुई थी, जहां पर वहां से भी हमला हुआ, यहां से भी हमला हुआ, तो आपने दोनों चीजों को सामने लाना है। इट वॉज ए सिलेक्टिव रेड, इट वॉज ए सिलेक्टिव कार्नेज, इथनिक क्लींजिंग, जिसके लिए इंटेंट ऑफ माइंड था, पहले से था। मैं उसके लिए सबसे बड़ी मिसाल मानता हूं जो 1986 में मंदिरों पर सारे कश्मीर में, I have a document to prove temples were burned down. There was no Pakistan, there was no terrorism at that point of time. Who did it, why they did it, and who is responsible for that? वहां से ये लीला शुरू हो जाती है। इसलिए किसी एक व्यक्ति को चाहे कमीशन के माध्यम से चाहे किसी तरीके से ये पिन पॉइंट करके बताया जाए कि तुम जिम्मेदार हो, इससे बात सिरे नहीं चढ़ेगी। ये पूरा देखना पड़ेगा किसके लिए किस किस की जिम्मेदारी है। और कई लोग मेरे से नाराज हो जाते हैं, आप गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को अटैक करते हैं। व्हाई शुड नॉट आई होल्ड गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया रिस्पॉन्सिबल। मान लीजिए स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का फेलियर है, हु हैड टू कम फॉरवर्ड देन? अगर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का फेलियर ही हो जाता है, इट इज द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट दैट शुड हैव कम। सो इट इज अ कलेक्टिव फेलियर ऑफ स्टेट गवर्नमेंट as well as the failure of central government. So I request all of you, ये जो ट्रूथ एंड रिकंसिलिएशन की बात चल रही है, ट्रूथ एंड रिकंसिलिएशन कमीशन की बात चल रही है, मैं सिर्फ एक बात लास्ट में ये कहूंगा, ये कहां से शुरू होगी। देखिए, नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन ने 1999 की उस जजमेंट पर, जहां पर हम जिनोसाइड का केस लेकर के नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन गए थे, जस्टिस वेंकट चलैया की चेयरमैनशिप में उन्होंने कहा acts akin to genocide have been committed against Kashmiri Pandits। और उन्होंने जो कश्मीरी पंडितों के खिलाफ हुआ उसको उन्होंने क्लिंजिंग माना। इतना ही नहीं, उन्होंने ये भी कहा that a genocide type design may exist against Kashmiri Pandits, which was later proved through various things that happened from 1997 to 2006। मेरी एक यहां पर एक विनती है, आप सबसे विनती है कि इस इशू को आप दोनों तरीकों से ले लीजिए। एक है कश्मीरी पंडित इशू, दूसरा है ओवरऑल जम्मू कश्मीर का इशू। हम दोनों चीजों के साथ कनेक्टेड हैं, बट कश्मीरी पंडित इशू कैन नॉट बी इंटरमिंगल्ड विद द इश्यूज ऑफ द रेस्ट ऑफ द पीपल। जितने भी कश्मीरी पंडितों के अलावा कश्मीरी पंडित हैं जम्मू कश्मीर में रहते हैं, जिनके साथ जुल्म तशद्दुद हुआ या उनकी कई तरह की कंप्लेंट्स हैं, दे हैव अ लार्ज सेगमेंट, दे हैव अ कंप्लीट लिस्ट ऑफ कंप्लेंट्स, वो भी उस ट्रूथ एंड रिकंसिलिएशन कमीशन में आनी चाहिए। इतना सब कहते हुए मेरी आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि इस ट्रूथ एंड रिकंसिलिएशन कमीशन के लिए जो सामने विचार आ रहे हैं उनको आगे बढ़ाने के लिए हम सब कोशिश करें, और मेरा यकीन है एक दिन ये ठीक होगा। और अगर हम चाहते हैं कल दोबारा सारा मामला ठीक हो जाए तो ये जरूरी है कि जो इसके जिम्मेदार हैं उनको चिन्हित किया जाए, जो इसके जिम्मेदार हैं उनको सजा मिले, और जो आगे के लिए सोसाइटी कैसे ठीक हो जाती है उसके लिए भी रास्ता सामने आए। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you very much, Ashwini ji. Syed Abid Bukhari Saab, would you like to intervene now? Bukhari Saab. नहीं सुनाई दे रहा उनको। हक नवाज साहब।
Let us hear Dr. Farooq Saab.
हाँ, little later. Let some more, because once Farooq Saab speaks, that's the end. Khajuria Saab, ID Khajuria Saab. ID
हाँ जी।
Khajuria.
जनाब नमस्कार।
Please.
सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स को नमस्कार। ये जो ट्रूथ एंड रिकंसिलिएशन का जो सब्जेक्ट आया है ये बहुत ही अहम है, बहुत ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि इंसान की एक फितरत है कि वो सच्चाई जानने के लिए हमेशा स्ट्रगल करता है, चाहे वो छोटा बच्चा हो, बड़ा हो, या कहीं किसी सरकार में हो, वो हमेशा अपनी ट्रुथ जानने के लिए अपने इर्द गिर्द जो भी फिनोमेने घटते हैं उसके, वो उस फिनोमेने में सच्चाई से जानने के लिए हमेशा कोशिश करता है। तो हमारे साथ तो एक जम्मू कश्मीर में एक बहुत बड़ा घटनाक्रम हो रहा है 47 से लेकर, और फिर खासकर 90 में उसका एक काफी दर्दनाक पेनफुल हमने उसका आगे दौर देखा। इसके लिए ये जरूरी है कि सच्चाई को जाना जाए। लेकिन ये बात बड़ी हैरानगी की लग रही है कि हमें आज सच्चाई जानने के लिए फिल्म बनवाना पड़ी। क्या हमारी स्टेट, हमारा इंडियन स्टेट जो हमारी एजेंसीज हैं वो इतनी रिपोर्टिंग नहीं कर पाए सरकार को, इतना कुछ सच ना बता पाए कि उनको सच्चाई का ही नहीं पता चले। हमें आज पार्लियामेंट हाउस में ये सुनना पड़ा कि ये फिल्म सच्चाई पर बनी हुई है। इसका मतलब है जो फिल्में बनती हैं वो सच्चाई पर बनती हैं। आज हमें सच्चाई क्या फिल्म से जानना पड़ेगी? हमारे पास इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हैं, हमारे पास एजेंसीज है, हमारा एक स्ट्रक्चर है स्टेट का, उसके पास कई किस्म के एजेंसीज है, आईवी से लेकर रा से लेकर और कितने, और मैन टू मैन जानने की कोशिश कर सकती है स्टेट पावर। और स्टेट पावर ने दरअसल इंटरेस्ट लिया ही नहीं। जहाँ स्टेट पावर ने, इंडियन स्टेट ने ये एक बहाना बना लिया कि हम अगर कहेंगे तो शायद हमारे लिए कुछ हो जाएंगे, तो हम एक फिल्म इसका प्रचार कराएंगे तो उससे हमें सच्चाई दिखाई देगी। मैं ये समझता हूँ कि अगर फिल्मों को हम सच्चाई मानना शुरू हो गए, इसमें जरूर ये सच्चाई है, इसमें जरूर ऐसे फैक्ट्स हैं, इसमें कोई इनकार ही नहीं कर सकता। लेकिन एक बुद्धिमत्ता से हिसाब से सोचने वाली बात यह है कि अगर हम हर फिल्म को अगर सच्चाई मानना शुरू हो जाए, चाहे वो डाकुओं की रही, चाहे वो चंबल के डाकुओं की रही, चाहे वो गदर रही, चाहे संताली की पार्टिसिपेशन पर बनी रही, पार्टीशन पर बनी रही, ये फिल्में को फिल्म समझा जाए और सच्चाई को जानने के लिए एक इंस्टीट्यूशन बन जाए, जिसके लिए ये कोशिश की गई है ट्रुथ एंड रिकंसिलिएशन, ये कमीशन बने और सच्चाई कहने की सबको इजाजत हो, सबकी एजेंसियों की सपोर्ट ली जाए और सच्चाई ढूंढने की कोशिश की जाए। नहीं तो हमारा समाज ज्यादा बिखरेगा, हमारे समाज के अंदर ज्यादा दूरियां पैदा होंगी और हमारा समाज काफी आगे ही बड़ा विचलित है, जहां आगे ही इसके अंदर बहुत सी खामियां बनती जा रही हैं। नुकसान कठुआ से लेकर लखनपुर से लेकर कश्मीर के आखिरी कोने तक नुकसान हमारा हुआ है, ह्यूमन भी हुआ है, हमारा मटीरियलिस्ट भी हुआ है, हमारी जिंदगी के राइट्स भी सारे छीने गए हैं, हमारी शक्ल भी बदल दी गई है। हम हैं क्या ये अब हमें पता नहीं चलता कि हम क्या हैं। इसलिए ये एक बहुत बड़ी वक्त आया है एक ऐसा जिसमें ये सवाल उठा है और इस सवाल को हल करने के लिए यही एक रास्ता है कि सच्चाई को जाना जाए, रिकंसिलिएशन कमीशन को बनाया जाए, रिकंसिलिएशन, और सच्चाई पर सब लोगों को वाकिफ कराया जाए ताकि हमारे साथ हुआ क्या है। धन्यवाद, शुक्रिया।
Thank you very much. Sunil Vattal Saab for a couple of minutes. Sunil Vattal Saab. Sunil Vattal Saab. नहीं सुन रहे.
Sir, am I?
Yeah.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah. Please.
Namaskar, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So, namaskar to everybody, and thank you, Shah Sahab, for giving me a chance to speak. I think हमें दो चीजें हैं सर यहाँ पे. We need to segregate. We need to talk separately about truth and separately about reconciliation. And at the moment, what we are looking at is it is more of reconciliation than truth. Our next step should be more of healing rather than anything else. और जो भी हम सब लोग we are talking about this film, हाँ ठीक है, जैसे अश्विनी जी ने बोला, we should be thankful to the whole system, to the producers of this movie, कि at least awareness हुई है, लोगों को पता तो चला है issue के बारे में. But I think that is general awareness to the general public. But awareness was always there for the people who mattered, for the system and for the administration. So थोड़ी सी जागरूकता की जरूरत है. And if we are looking at truth and reconciliation, हमें एक बहुत ही अजीब बात है कि आज से 4 साल पहले, 5 साल पहले Supreme Court refused to entertain the cases, saying that these are time barred. So that approach has sort of defeated the purpose. So एक सबसे बड़ी चीज यही है कि we should dig in, ये cases खुलने चाहिए. We should look at who were the perpetrators of these crimes, irrespective of the communities, because all communities have suffered. And when we are talking about truth and reconciliation, it is not only the victims of terrorism, it's also the victims of human rights abuse. It cuts both ways. दोनों साइड से है, दोनों sides के victims होते हैं. It cuts all through all strata of the society. So I think it is very essential for the administration, for the government to wake up, and we need truth and reconciliation is the need of the hour, and we have to heal things. The other thing is जो खान साहब ने बताया कि हमें विकास के नाम पे ये बताया गया था कि आर्टिकल 370 की एब्रोगेशन के बाद there is going to be a huge change. Unfortunately, people have not seen any improvements there. It's all prachar and prasar, but on the ground not much is happening, जिसकी वजह से common Kashmiri is restless and demands some healing. So with that, I'll just close, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yes, please. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? If someone wants to offer any comment, please do so. Otherwise, Dr. Farooq Abdullah, I would request him to speak. Is there anyone who has some specific point to suggest or offer? Dr. Farooq Abdullah, please.
O.P. Shah Sahab, thank you for this meeting that you have called, which is very necessary, particularly after this film came out. It has created a heck of a uproar, not only in the country, but even many places abroad. My feeling is that instead of healing, I think it is creating more tensions than healing wounds. Many things in this film, many people will say many things, but I think what was important is, are we going to live on hatred, or are we going to create more understanding? Because if we don't create understanding, then let me tell the people who are on this panel that it will be very difficult for Muslims and Hindus to live together, not only in Jammu and Kashmir, but in the rest of the country also. Because if hatred continues, then I don't think there is any hope in hell for anything to improve. If this film is made only for creating tensions and winning elections, then I think I'm very sad. It should have been a film which should have shown everything, which should have shown how Hindus suffered, how Muslims suffered, how Sikhs suffered, all who lived here. How can you forget Kiti Singh Pora? How can you forget the rape of the Muslim women in Kupwara? How can you forget any of these things. How can we forget that the tensions are still there? Look at what Manmohan Singh ji did. He created jobs for Hindus, Kashmiri Pandits here. They came with the hope that probably slowly their families will come and we'll have a climate of understanding. There are still Kashmiri Pandits who are still living here, who never left. And the problem is that one doesn't see this in the film. They show such things. My God, can a Muslim have a blood of a Hindu on the rice and eat that rice? What sort of person is making this film? Instead of trying to build understanding, mistakes have been made. All right, I agree. But can't forget, ethnic cleansing was not done by Kashmiri Muslims. It was a cry from the other side. They still continue to say so. So, where is that understanding of friendship, that understanding of people to live together in this film? It is not there. And unless that comes, to expect something to change, let me tell one thing very frankly, nothing is going to change. If hatred is going to be created further and further, and more rather than trying to bridge. You know, in our saying there is that if there is a wound and you lift the scab of the wound, what will happen? It will only bleed. It will not stop bleeding. We are trying to bleed after 32 years. It took 32 years for people to know what has happened here. And that also only one-sided thing. Why not the rest of it? Why not so many, my MLAs, my ministers who were blown up? Why didn't that come into the film? Innocent workers in the villages, just because they were part of national conference, were blown up, shot dead, coming out of the mosque. Not remember that? I remember myself going to Kazigund and lifting the flesh from the trees of my minister. We forget that. We think it's only one-sided that suffered. Every side suffered. Do we continue to suffer now even? Do we continue to live in disharmony? That we have to start. Umar said long time ago that we need this commission. Did any government think of doing so? They never did. When Chitty Singh Tripura took place, innocent 5 people from the shops were lifted, that they were the killers. It's only when their DNAs were tested and the judge from South India came, retired judge, thanks to the Law Minister of India, who investigated it and found that this was totally wrong. They were not the ones who killed them. And when I wanted that judge to investigate Chitty Singh Tripura, Delhi asked him not to investigate. How many things will I tell you that I know? So let this commission come. Let this commission decide what is the truth. But remember one thing, unless we build bridges, there will never be peace here. Never. There is not a single Kashmiri who doesn't say Kashmiri brothers should come back. Not a single one. Show me one person who says that Kashmiri Pandits shouldn't come back. But fear is in them. There is fear. I saw it recently when that chemist, poor fellow, who had lived all the time here, Bindru, was killed. And those 4,000 persons who had jobs here ran away within 24 hours. They left Srinagar and other parts. Not sure whether they will survive. With all the force that we have, the army, the BSF, the CRPF, and the police, they left. Is this what we want? Is this what we want, that the families will come and then something happens like this and they run in 1 minute? You have to build bridges. You have to start thinking, how do we do it? Reconciliation Commission will show where it has happened. But finally, we have to find place in our own hearts to accommodate them. They have to find places in their hearts to accommodate us. Because unless we do this and we play politics on this, we are never going to be getting on this. It's a human issue, and human issue must be treated with a human heart and human understanding, not by pointing fingers at each other. So long as we continue to point fingers at each other, Mr. Shah, we will never be able to settle this problem. We will never. I am too old to see what will happen in future. I do not know. But those of our children and their children, what sort of a Jammu and Kashmir are they going to see? Jammu and Kashmir of hatred? Of not understanding each other? Are we going to keep on fighting each other? How does it matter whether you're a Hindu, you're a Muslim, you're a Sikh? You're part of this land. And you have to live here. Even when Chittu Singh Pora happened, Sikhs didn't leave. They're still here. That's good. Let them appoint a commission, they will see where the responsibility lies. Today, the fingers are pointed at Farooq Abdullah. Everybody thinks Farooq Abdullah is responsible. Let that commission come and you will know who is responsible. Even what one of the participants said about what happened when Ghulam Ahmad Shah was the chief minister, and in Anantnag, the temples and houses were desecrated. I know, because I was not the chief minister. And I know when Arun Dairu rang me and said, Farooq, can you save us? I said, why you don't want me? What for? Where are you? Why don't you come from Delhi and see for yourself? And I went. Opi Shah Sahib, you'll be surprised. I went and I went to one house. And there, the old man and his daughter were sitting in the balcony of that house. That house belonged to a Hindu. And when I went, this old man told me, he said, these people who came were not from our village. They were from somewhere else. And I said, what happened? He said, I put my daughter here in this balcony. And I said, you recite Quran. And took all the pictures of Hindu gods from those houses, so that when they will come, they will not see as this Hindu house. So when they came, they saw this girl reciting Quran. They gave her one slap and said, you are not supposed to be here. This is a Hindu house. This old man, the father, said, how stupid you are. This is my house. This girl is my daughter. She's reciting Quran. And he opened the map that he had been given of these houses. And he said, no, this is a house of a Hindu. He said, I don't know who gave you this map. There were such people also in this state who stood up and are still standing today to safeguard them. Let us not live on things that things cannot change. Things can change if our hearts can change. If you can start thinking in the terms of let's get back home and create that atmosphere. And the film is not creating that atmosphere of understanding. Film is creating understanding of hate, tremendous hate, as if we all Muslims are responsible what happened here. That is what this film is doing. Whether you like it or not, it's the truth. Go and see when they come out from the cinema. They point fingers only on the Muslims, not on the country that sent them and did all this. I'm sorry to say, let's come down to the ground. And Shah Sahib, this commission must work for understanding and bring the truth out. Once the truth is out, they will know where we failed and where we succeeded. This is what has, but finally, not only is this commission important for that, it is also important that without that commission also, the Hindu brothers and sisters and Muslim brothers and sisters must start accommodating each other. If we don't, and we wait for that commission to do so, you're wrong. Commission can only bring the facts, but finally we have to find, in our hearts, we have to find the place for each other. If we don't, then nothing can bring them back and nothing can bring peace in this state. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Farooq Saab, for a very impressive and effective speech. Friends, we had a very useful discussion, which was organized as 72 hours notice. I'm glad that you all came and attended the discussion. And I would like to thank you once again for having participated in the discussion. And the discussion today was very meaningful. I hope our voice of this session will be heard by people who matter. Thank you very much and see you soon in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.